There we go. Mute everybody. And then Shahid, I need to ask you to unmute. So I think we got to know each other because you were heading up the Woking Asian Businessmen's group, or set it up. And I think it was through that we first met up, and I'd lived in Pakistan. And I like to chat to anyone I meet from Pakistan. I like to speak to them in Urdu, and we sort of connected. And you enjoyed meeting Gora and Angre, an Englishman who speaks a bit of Urdu. So that was fun. But so, I mean, what would be really good, Shahid, is for you to tell us a bit about your background, how you got to be. I mean, it's a long journey. It's a very open question. How you ended up being the High Sheriff. Let's aim there, but start in Pakistan.
Okay, so first of all, thank you very much. I've got to be a bit careful because one of the persons who's sitting on this panel is Peter Brain, and Pete and myself, we go back, well, probably 45 years, if not more. So I'm sure he'll correct me on some of the points there. So my background is I was born in Pakistan. Our ancestral village where my father came to England in '64. I was born in Pakistan and grew up with my grandfather, who was he was a captain in the army, but more than that, he was a very much a politician and leader of so he's equivalent of the chairperson of one of the leading parties. And sort of grew up with him and staying with him, and he had people lived off his land because he had loads of land, and he had sort of people lived off the. So I was probably the only boy in the family. So my grandfather, firstborn, and a boy. Certainly in Pakistani family, you're already king already in that respect. And he was great. Sort of, I wouldn't say frightening. I mean, he's a very strong, tall, lot of substance around him, and he was sort of guy that people come up 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. or any time of the day. If there's a dispute anywhere, in those days he would walk and he sort those disputes out. And the good thing was, whatever he said, it went. The people accepted the decision, whether it was right or wrong. The people accepted the decision. So he's a sort of an interesting thing is, even when I go back to Pakistan now to our village and see people, nobody ever refers to me as Shahid Azeem, son from the UK, or Shahid Azeem, son of Mr. Azeem. They refer to me as Shahid, grandson of Captain Fazaldar. So they still have that thing. Bear in mind now, this is the third generation of people there. So that's how much respect my grandfather had. I also remember him teaching me.
Yeah,
sorry,
little village, but you generated quite a few military men. I think you told me.
Well, our village is 700 people there. Our area is slightly higher up. We're a bit more in the hills, so it's beautiful. On a good day, get top of the hill and you can see the Himalayas with the snow on them, and you can see the Khyber Pass on a clear day. If you was anywhere, you'd never want to be move anywhere. So I loved living with the family. So just go back to one bit that I will never forget. My grandfather was the fact that I was a bit of a naughty boy. And the ladies all used to go together with the village, so go to the well, get their pitchers on their head and get the water. And I used to have a catapult, and one of the guys egged me on, see if I could knock the pitcher off. Basically, it was one of our extended families. I broke the pitcher, water fell over, and bear in mind I'm 60 now. Still remember to this day the beating I got from my grandfather on two fronts. One, for not respecting the elders, and secondly, not valuing the value of the water. So they were the two things, and I would never ever forget that beating ever. So I remember that as if it was yesterday. So our village is, as I say, 600-700 people. Out of that, in the last since So back in 1940, General Ticker is our relative. He was born there, and since then we have produced 7 generals out of 700 people. I don't know how many brigadiers, and the current in during the when you were in Pakistan. So the guy who was in charge of the military operation, General Zia, my uncle was number 2 to him. He was Deputy Chief Army Staff. He implemented, and his other brother implemented martial law in Peshawar, where you were, and Lahore, and all that sort of area. So currently, one of my relatives, head of intelligence services, is a General Zahid there. And then we got 2 famous. Well, they weren't born there, but obviously. The fathers were born there. So Amir Khan, the boxer, he's my nephew. So his father was born there, and Sajid Mahmood, who played cricket for England, first cut. So he's also my nephew, born there. So our village is actually known as a producing of military people, really. So it's quite a very well known place, and we're 6 miles away from where the atomic plant is. So that's another history we got there. So when that was built,
you never went into the military, but you've ended up in business.
No. So I came to England. I wanted to be a footballer, and this is quite an interesting thing, right? So 69, I came to England. England won the World Cup. We lived in Denzil Road. My next door neighbour took me to Guildford City. I fell in love with the Guildford football with Guildford City. 1970, I saw it at Chelsea, and then I started playing football for Aldershot. And I'll tell you that 50 years on how that's come around. And then, so basically, I joined. The question was, did I join the military? So I broke my leg. I went back to Pakistan. I left school with no qualification. And my grandfather told me that, well, not my father, my uncle told me I'd got to join the military. So I joined the equivalent of Sandhurst, where I don't remember where you found, they were talking about Bin Laden about a mile away from the academy. So I was in Aptabad. So I lasted 2 weeks. I hated being told what to do, when to go to bed, when to get up. And more than that, anything, Phil, I think I probably would have made a general, not because of my ability, it's because it's the family network. That's how I'm still that works. So yeah, so I joined the military for 2 weeks, but I came back. As I say, I broke my leg playing football. Then I joined the ministry. I didn't know what data processor was back in '78, and my first boss was Pete Brain, who's sitting there. So he's my first person that. He was a senior data processor. I just joined. Didn't know what computers was, but somehow I ended up in computers at Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries and Food in Epsom Road, and we became great friends with Peter. Peter was he used to pick me up and give me a lift. He was married to Valerie, and we still keep in touch, and we still see his one of the sons, not both of them, but you see Jonathan help Peter move from Agraria Road to that. And I tell you, talk about faith. So that was one of the areas. So when I helped Peter move from Agraria Road to Old Palace Road, as we come down, I don't know if Peter might remember or not this, we moved the furniture down and these squatters moved in. And these were not nice people. One of the guys who was accused of moved in there was a chap called King. And he was a guy who trying to petrol bomb one of the post offices in Walpolson Road. Anyway, so what we go out there, and I'm out there with the police officer, and Peter and Valerie and his other friends, likes of Pete French and these guys, all praying, saying they'll go out. But I think the prayer might work because the police knocked the door down and beat the crap out of them. They just walked out. So I think the prayer did work that day. So, but Peter has been a great friend over the years, and there's and obviously Peter was involved with at that time Millmead Church, and so we so there's lots of stuff that we more than importantly we played squash together, and he taught me a bit of squash. He beat me, and I looked at Peter, and if you see Peter, he's 6 foot something, he's big lad, and I thought, how the hell did he bloody fat bugger beat me? And so I took up squash properly seriously, and then. But then it came, and just go finish on Peter. It came and bit me in 2007 because he said to me, he was running the YMCA, and he said, "Oh, Shahid, I've just been given a gold ticket to run a London Marathon. Would you run it for us as a charity?" And you know, he's thinking 8 months, I said, yeah, all right then. I didn't, and which I did, but it was quite a. It was about raising some fund for a project with the Princess Trust. So um, I couldn't say no to Peter because Peter was a great role model to me and taught me a lot when I was up there, and you know, we've been friends for over nearly 5 decades.
Mm. So you had these sort of two tracks. One was a business one, and the other was sport. And I gather you ended up as chairman of some football club. Is that right?
Yeah, so it's quite an interesting thing again. So if you believe in something and you believe there's somebody out there. So I came, as I said to you, Guildford City, Chelsea, Aldershot Football Club, right? And today I still sponsor Guildford City. Two, I still support Chelsea. And the third thing is I now own Aldershot Town Football Club. Now, Chelsea played a major part in that. The club administration in 2013, and I wrote the letter to the chairman of Chelsea, who I met in Moscow when they went to play Chelsea Man United, and you know, the guy, the Bruce Buck, the Chelsea chairman, you know, I went to his board meeting. So you know, here's a Chelsea fan who stood in the East Bank, in the shed, getting fights with everybody every day. But he was so you're now sitting and dealing with the chairman of Chelsea in their boardroom with all their directors, and what he did for me, you know, I couldn't tell you, but it was something that I'll never ever be able to repay back. And he's still a friend today. So you know, if you move on, so you support the club, you own the club, and you're dealing with a team you supported 50 years on. So it's about continuity, and it's working with people all your life, and not, you know, I wouldn't say use people, but if you're going to use them, but also give back. Don't just take. It's two-way. To me, it's a two-way, two-way thing, because you only do it once.
Now, some people say that football is the true religion of the British people. I mean, is that was it borderline religion for you? Were you a religious follower of football?
I love football because the only reason I love football, when I came to England in '69, the IRA conflict started. I couldn't speak English. I went to school in Guildford, St Nicholas, and if you watch the BBC News, in fact, I don't know if you've seen the stuff. I had Sir Trevor McDonald here last week or 2 weeks ago, helping me on a video, and I was trying to explain to him, because I've known, and Sir Trevor, believe it or not, lived in Onslow Village for, I think Peter might know this, about 30 odd years. He used to live in. He only moved to London in 2002, so he was a Guildford lad. In fact, he was in Guildford when the bomb went off. He was in the Swede restaurant on the day that the bombing went in '74, I think. So the IRA, so they started, and I couldn't speak English, and my father made me watch the news. He said, "You got to learn." And the news on BBC always used to start in Belfast today. That was the headline. If you look at it now, every news was in Belfast today, and because I couldn't speak English, so what I thought it was a form of greeting. So I I used to go into school and go in Belfast today, sort of thing. So and I'll tell you who was in my school with me. I don't know if you, Rodney from Only Fools and Horses, Nicholas Lyndhurst. So he was in the same class as me, as was Andrew Hall, who was sadly passed away about a couple of years ago. He was the guy in Butterflies with him. So they're two famous actors, and they're in the class with him. So yeah, so I went to St Nicholas School, and then I went Park Barn. I don't know if anybody knows Park Barn. It's probably the toughest school in Guildford. Most people get expelled and go to Park Barn, but I'm I'm proud, but I actually got expelled from Park Barn. So because I used to get fights every day with the likes of the Greens, the Hardings, the Chapmans, because I was the only Asian there. So you have to look after yourself. So I ended up, my dad wanted to teach me a lesson, so I ended up at a private school, which was part boarding, Clark's Grammar School, and not only couldn't speak English, they taught you French, German, and Latin at the same time. So you can see I left school with no qualification, but I came out with an idea though. What I realised was nobody liked school dinners. They all had money, and they were boarders. and they didn't do halal food in those days, back in 74, 75. So my father wrote a letter saying I was the only kid allowed out of school to get my lunch because you never had the vegetarian option. So as I realized they had money and didn't like school dinners, I used to say, right, okay. I used to bring fish and chips back for the kids, but I used to charge them for bringing it back. And my 50p I used to get from my dad, I negotiated with I tell you what it was, Peter. Do you remember Cathay House down in Paul's, back off by the railway station? So I did a deal with him, and I said to him, well, I should get mine free because I'm buying too many. So I got mine free, and then I made money from them. And then what used to happen, the borders, they get their money on Friday, and by Tuesday they spend it. So money I used to make from the fish and chips, I used to loan it to them, and on Friday they have to give me interest on it. If not, they knew I got expelled from Park Barn, so they all paid. So I suppose that's when my entrepreneurial sort of skills came out. Really, I thought finding opportunities.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm going to jump now to you being you were nominated as High Sheriff, you're appointed, and you've had this last year, and you were telling me that you are the first Muslim High Sheriff in, I don't know, 1,000 years. Did you say
1088?
1088? That, I mean, there wasn't one in 1088. It's just they've never
No,
had one.
no. That was Harold got something stuck in the eyes, I think, that day. Battle of Hastings.
That was 1066. Every school
Mm.
knows that date.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
I was only 20 years out.
Near enough.
Yeah.
You passed your citizenship.
Yeah, I did.
But yeah, so you talked about being the first, in the sense, the only Muslim High Sheriff we've had. So,
In Surrey.
In Surrey.
Yep.
So what has that meant to you? What in terms of being Muslim and being the High Sheriff?
Well, look, it's a really difficult. So, first of all, it's an honour, and people know me. I don't do the fluffy stuff, and you can see my dress code. Other people might have been dressed up and in their full High Sheriff uniform. What you see is what you get with me. But it's a real honour. I've been a deputy lieutenant since 2009. And it's a privileged position. And when I was offered it, I didn't really want to do it, to be honest. I just thought it wasn't for me. I just thought it was a bit pompous. He just didn't think, it could be opening lots of doors and cutting ribbons and having dinners and all that sort of stuff. And I said, I don't really want. I said I'll think about it. But when I really thought about it, I thought, well, actually, it'd be great. It sounds very, honestly pompous. Say it's a legacy, but in fact, that if you could show we now live in the most diverse country in the world. We have various nationalities, and if and if I can, if the youngsters, the next generation, or even the kids are born now, if they can see that and they become part of the system, and then they start contributing, it's a great way for them to follow. So that's the reason I took it, really. Otherwise, you know, but having said that, it's been a real honor and privilege. And I think during this lockdown, I think people keep saying to me, well, you haven't, not really had the year you should have. And but my answer really is, I've had probably the most rewarding year ever of anything I've done. And the reason it has been is because the COVID kicked in March, when when the lockdown started. I became again, actually, by the way, I'm also the first virtual digital installation. So our thing is actually now, the virtual installation is now at the History Museum as a first digital for a digital one we ever done. We did it live on Facebook. We had just over 2,000. Well, you were on it because you were my chaplain, aren't you, really? So so we had over 2,000 people watching it, so that was great. So I just going back, I think I've seen, since the lockdown, I've seen the best in society. I think I've seen people from making face masks at home, going up to people who are looking after the food banks, the vulnerable people, looking at things like medicines, or befriending people, to likes of McLaren, who are doing things like ventilators, Chelsea Football Club giving away their hotels free, London Irish doing things. So you've seen in Surrey the best of society galvanizing and looking after one another. So, and the thing that I will take away from this year, for me, the best thing ever was that was actually having the Shah Jahan Mosque, and I think we talked about this, Phil, earlier on. The Shah Jahan Mosque, the few youngsters, volunteers, put leaflets around people's doors and saying to them, if you need shopping, if you're shielding, they go out there. These youngsters went shopping, and likes of Morrison's, and they thought, well, they make, doing bulk buying and trying to sell it or something like that. But then they started wearing their Shah Jahan Mosque, fleeces. That got picked up by St Dunstan Church, who made they made a £1,000. Well, I don't know how many thousand. Gave them a number of £1,000. So St Dunstan Church gave money into Shah Jahan Mosque, who bought all their products, believe it or not, from His Church, which is a charity that that takes products from manufacturer are slightly packaging's damaged or something like that. Nothing wrong with the thing. So Christian church buying from, supporting the Muslim mosque, who are buying it from a Christian organization and distributing it to 90% of people who are not Muslims.
Mm.
So for me, if you can just galvanize that, the faith groups, I think that's for me it's been the best thing. And the fact that we had a number of at the mosque, we had Sophie Wessex and Prince Edward again spending a day there, and that was, again, it was great. And on the other side that I think that people are missing is, as a High Sheriff, I saw dealing with death with dignity. There was all the people that were at the moment, obviously people who are either furlough or isolating. But we had in Surrey during from March to I presume the numbers I've got to December, we had excess deaths of 1,400. Now that we didn't have a public mortuary, then that had to be created. That was being set up at Ray Park, which were again the police, the councils, the local authorities, the emergency service, NHS, they all got behind it. We had challenges with body bags. We had people, coroners having problems. Obviously seeing how they, because obviously again, probably not. They weren't dealing with the COVID side, but any kind of death that had a big impact. And then you had funeral directors, again, they have big challenges. Normally they probably bury three a month, but they were having to do 7 a week. And then people wanted to be, and then you had people, with the Muslim and Jewish want to be buried within 24 hours, and that was a big impact again, because that was a big challenge for them. But what I've seen, as I said, across the county, it's been a real eye opener for me, and I just think that I rather see. I'm sure I'm just seeing it. Well, apart from Tony, I'm sure he won't be part of the establishment. But what I see here is I went and dealt with real people this year, and I just saw the real people who are making real difference. I'm not saying the other people aren't there, because there's so many people doing great work, but these are people who are not on the radar that just gone on and done what they've done. It's been remarkable, and I think for us as a county and as a nationally and worldwide, I think it's a reset for the community. It's a reset for people, and I think we should come out as a better, caring society. Whatever your beliefs are, you come out, because you can have all the medicine, but you've got to have faith, and you've got to believe in something, and you've got to look at somebody that somebody's outside controlling you.
I'm getting the impression that really you're a man of action, and you like to see things, get things done, see things done. And I'm also hearing that you're bringing people together. Would that be a sort of summary of your faith position? Is that how you see faith affecting you or helping you in your everyday life?
I think, first and foremost, we all human beings, right? And I think, whatever your beliefs are, whatever whatever you do, I think everybody should respect one another, respect their beliefs, respect, I've been to churches, I've been to synagogues, I've been into, Buddhist centers, I've been to mosques. At the end of the day, you've got to be a citizen of the world nowadays. And for me, I think what I've seen this year is, I believe in Allah, I believe in the Prophet. I've been to Hajj, I've fasted, I've got the 5 things, but I would never want to force my beliefs on anybody. That's my own beliefs. I just, we should respect everybody, what they're doing. And I would never want to, I wouldn't want to see anybody criticizing anybody's beliefs, whatever their beliefs are.
Mm, mm.
But for me, I think what really is, I think, look, as a High Sheriff, one of the role is convene, connect, and contribute. And I think I convened, I contributed, and I connected people. And I'm hoping that we carry on from this year. And I'm hoping that people do convene and connect with each other. We're so worried about living, flying, to finding out what's on the Mars and whatever we are, but we don't even know anything about our next door neighbours.
Mm. Okay.
We don't, we will be living there for 20 years. Oh, they've got a dog and a cat, and they go out on Saturday. But what, at the end of the day, the neighbours you're going to be living for God knows how long. It's whatever it is. You've got to be, got to get to know them, and we don't even know our neighbours. We worry about everybody else.
Now I've got we've got another quarter of an hour or so, but there's a question here from Peter. I've got other questions about faith, but he said, so you got to answer this. Is from Peter, all right?
I will do.
How has your faith changed and developed over the years? And then, are there significant moments that accelerated that development? How's it changed? And were there any moments, those little eureka moments or whatever?
There've been numbers. I think really until I was probably about 35, 40. Yeah, yes, I prayed. Yes, I did my fasting. Yes, I did that. But I think sometimes as you get older, you start questioning yourself. What is your purpose? What did what you're here for? Okay, you can have all the, I at one stage I had 5 offices in France, Gibraltar, Belgium, and UK, nearly 300-400 staff, and I'm thinking, I was flying a week in Gibraltar, a week in France, a couple of days in Belgium. I never saw the family, and I was thinking, what's the purpose of my life? Why am I doing all this? I've got families that I can remember doing everything with my kids up to 10, 11, but then I had to count on one hand what we did from that age onwards till they're 18 before they went to university. So we are so sort of involved with this materialistic world, and even if today, and I would sound very sort of arrogant, if I had what I had 10 years ago when I was younger, when I worked with Peter, then if I had 10% of what I had when I was talking to Peter now, I've been very happy. And I got probably 90% more there, and I'm quite content. But why am I looking for more? I think so. Am I looking more for materialistic, financial? Not really. I'm reasonably comfortable. I'm more interested now that I'm going to make some kind of a social contribution to society. I think there's been opportunity. Look, sometimes I sit there and I question myself, why me? Why am I in this position? Why have I done? Well, I'm just a son of a migrant, left school with no qualification, living in 1-bedroom house, and moved out on, and then you supported the football club, and you move 50 years on, you built a business, with 120 million turnover. You restarted again. You own the football club you played for. You still support the same club, and I still see the same people. These are genuine people. What I find in society and life is people go with people with positions, and soon as that position's gone, they'll lash onto another one. Hello, Valerie. So the position just goes on. So we always been saying, I wouldn't say we're a selfish society, but we look at what's in it for us first. And I just think, I don't look for it; it comes to me. And my eureka moment was, I went to, and I was given zakat as 2% all the time, but I went to Pakistan quite a while ago, and they were building a mosque, and they wanted some money for footing. I gave them £1,000. I had cash with me. I paid them £1,000. Now, 6 months later, I just putting a suit on. Very rarely I wear a suit, but I wore a suit. And in my pocket, I swear on my life, I found £1,000 in my pocket. Now, I could understand if I put 100 or 200, but to find 1,000, you know, if you're missing £1,000, I found it. So I think the more you give, I think the more it comes back. So I think I like to give more, and you know, hopefully it comes back. It doesn't have to come back, you know, in a materialistic thing. It come back in, you know, in all ways. So that was for me. And I think the final one was when I went to Hajj in 2007, spending you know, about we were out there for a month. And actually, one, it was great because I just sold the business in 2007. I took the family there. It was great to be with my two sons, my daughter, my wife, because we were there for a whole month together. And that, to us, that there's one part was the pilgrimage side. The second time was my quality time with my family.
So the Hajj, this magic jacket. Where's your tailor? Where can I get a jacket like that? It sounds like a good one to have with that pocket. It's like the goose that laid a golden egg. The jacket with the pocket. But that's a wonderful story, and that's obviously influenced you. But has your faith changed as a result of those incidents or incidents like those?
Yeah, look, I'm probably far more religious than I ever was.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I still get up in the morning at, you know, the clocks have changed a bit, but I still up at 5 in the morning, do my prayer. I do one in the evening, you know, or maybe 2 in the evening if timing is right. I always go to Friday's prayer, and I do my own bit. I don't, you know, I'll go and listen to what people are saying, what I take in. I choose what I want to choose to take in, and not, you know, anything else. If I think that sounds in my gut feeling, all my life is always a gut feeling. If his gut feeling is right, it's right, and that's how I go with all my life, really. So, you know, there are people come in, and, you know, I've seen people preaching. I've been to university where, again, being very open about it. A youngster was giving Friday's sermon, and I was very disappointed with his message. But I stood up and told him. I said, you know, you know, you shouldn't be being disrespectful to another faith. You know, you here talking about Islam. That's what your job is, and you know, and so I think sometimes you have to stand up and say what you believe in. You know, you can't just, you know, where I used to be, you know, I said I can't be bothered talking to him, but sometimes you just have to say it, really.
So a couple more bits in the chat. Probably you'll be interested in this one. It says 1-0 to England. There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
But Zarina's got a question here, and maybe I'll just quickly summarize it. She wants to know more about your village. Where is it in Pakistan? Do they still drink water from a well? And she's a boxer. She's been teaching boxing, so she wants to know if you're a boxer. And you mentioned Amir Khan. And what sport as a young person? And as High Sheriff, are your main passions interfaith, sport, and young people? That's what she's surmised from what you said, I think. So yeah, there you go. There's a little bit for your village.
Okay, so the village. Okay, so I'll come back to the village. I'll go all those, Phil. So the village is actually 30 miles, sort of northwest from Rawalpindi. So we're about, if you're going towards Lahore, if you know the area, you just go turn left and you go through the hills. So it's called Matore, Matore. Interesting enough, you type in Matore, it was when the partition happened in 1947, it's listed as a gateway to peace. So we had a lot of Hindus who used to live there, and they were guaranteed safe passage from that area to Lahore. So it's about 100 miles from Lahore. So that was a gateway for peace. So our village was, you know, so even to this day now they talk about this bit of land belonged to the Sikh families and that sort of thing. So that's where we are. We're 100 miles from Lahore line of control, but 30 odd miles from Rawalpindi and the village down there. I never boxed. I boxed once, and the guy hit me so hard I didn't want to go back in there again. I didn't like boxing. But my year as as a High Sheriff, you have themes. One of the themes I was very, very keen to deal with. So my themes were all decided in 2019, 18, 19. So I was talking about kick out hunger. And this was before we had this pandemic. So kick out hunger, we were going to create an app. Second was uh, dealing with having a non-intrusive post-mortem. So I don't think anybody should be cut up to have their post-mortem, and technology is there. And the third thing was sport, and try and raise some funds for some community foundation. With the kick out hunger, we changed it a bit. Now we're working, so we changed that to providing digital banking for the unbankable. So I've just been granted a digital license. So when I was in lockdown from March onwards, I was at home and I had to send. So when my grandfather died, he left me the land because I was the only one. I gave the land away to the people who lived on the farm because I said I'm never coming back. So they're all part of our family. So when we were in the lockdown in Pakistan, the people weren't even the white collar people weren't getting any funding. So we sent probably £10,000 in space of how it was. But what we did was, I probably smallest amount we said was 50. The highest was 1,000, and basically probably cost me £600 to send, including the admin fees and exchange rates and all that. So I thought, there must be a better way of doing this anyway. So I started investigating it. £10 billion goes to Pakistan, or from the UK. Out of 220 million people in Pakistan, 80 million got smartphones. So started investigating it. So I set up, I applied to become a digital bank. So that was applied in August. I got my license in October. Normally takes 2 years. We got in October. We just got a safeguarding account. The biggest challenge was took us the safeguarding account. You have to have a safeguarding account. So in July, we'll be launching our digital bank. But more importantly, we can do credit cards and debit cards. But when people come out prison, and it give you stats on prison, 40% of the women who come out prison are homeless. When you walk out of prison, you get £42. By the time you come out of prison, if you go left, it's probably the drug dealer. If you go right, right is the pub. You spend your £42. You then go into this vicious circle of, stealing. You end up back in prison again, and you can't get bank accounts. You can't get any payments unless you belong to part of the Salvation Army. So, and all this know your clients, all rubbish, because I was sitting at board, getting bored anyway. Oh, by the way, my wife doesn't know I started this bank yet, so so I will tell her later. So, we want to be able to provide banking. People, if the council want to give you universal credit or these things, you should be able to get a card. You can't even get bank accounts open. So all they need to know is that KYC, they know you. If the Salvation Army is your fixed abode, they have that. You can have a digital account and you can bank. So that's why I've started. So that was to help the prisoners, and the other area was that was the unbankable. And then I managed to, through the county council, I know Tony's just gone there, so I pressurised through these emergency services, the CEOs, and Stephen Owen Hughes, who's head of the emergency. We now got the approval to have a non-intrusive post-mortem scanning device in Surrey. Hopefully, that's all gone through the paperwork. Tony can confirm that. So we're gonna. So you shouldn't have to be cut up nowadays to find out. So 90% you can scan, read it, and tell you the cause of death. Nobody wants their loved one ever cut up. So that was something I wanted to do, and that's actually so that's all gone through. So and the other side is, because of the lockdown, I was supposed to have a fundraising dinner at Chelsea, London Irish and Surrey Cricket Club, but because of the lockdown, I can't do that. So I think I've done all right.
Yeah. There's a comment from Meeta about as a Hindu chaplain, when they do Diwali, Lakshmi Puja service at the university, and when I meet all the student attendees, I discovered a few had attended from Pakistan, were Muslims. They decided to join alongside with your flatmates, their flatmates, and enjoyed the service and event. So that's an example of India and Pakistan, Hindu, Muslims all coming together. And I think you've talked quite a bit about interfaith as really part of who you are. You know, you like to see people coming together.
So one of the things I'm really pushing forward for, which hopefully is going to happen, is create a modern place of worship. So what is a modern place of worship? Do you need to go to the church? Do you need to go to the mosque? Do you need to go to synagogue? But with digital technology, if you took a room, you know, whatever size it is, with 4 walls, you walk in, depending on time of the year, time of the week or the month, the time of the day, you can walk in there on a Friday, it could turn into a mosque, turn in on a Sunday, which digitally becomes a church, turn in, Saturday, if you want a synagogue. It's using technology. So you can create this app, take the timing on it, use this new LED type lighting, and you can put, whatever you want on it. So, and you need to go, what has this year has taught you the opportunity to create a modern way of doing things.
Well, there's a thought. We wouldn't even have to go anywhere. We could do it all from sitting in our room on Zoom, I presume.
No, but I think it's important, though. I think it's important to have that, because, for me to go to the mosque, it takes me an hour to get in and out.
Yeah.
If I have a place, and I go to London, these banks, they got these prayer rooms and that, but it's just a little office. But why couldn't you create one place where this is what I want to do at Surrey University. Remember the quiet centre on the corner? Again, it didn't go down well, but they said, I said, well, okay, how many faiths have you got on there? 12. Who's the biggest faith? Well, they said Muslims. Okay, well, if it's 5 million, whatever the pro rata is, they've got to raise that. And if the Hindus got to raise that, the Christians got to raise that. And between you, that's what you got to do. But
we have now High Sheriff, we have now sort of modified that quiet center. It's called Roundhouse, and there's a presence of even the Buddhist and Hindu community are sharing a room which is called a peace room.
Yep.
And we and there is purpose-built facilities in the AA building for our Muslim friends, and we also use now in these current times the university hall for Friday prayers, for Sunday service for the Christians, and I'll be doing a holy celebration this Sunday, Easter Sunday. So it won't be a celebration, it's more like a worship puja with all the restrictions in place. So yeah, we do have, you're right, the Quiet Center was a very ambitious project in the past, with a lot of people contributing towards a multi-faith center, which didn't go through, as you just mentioned. But we are trying to do something over there at the moment. And we are now a team of around 12 to 15 chaplains, including international, Friends International have joined as well. And we have 4 Christian faiths, from the Catholic, from Anglican and Methodist and Greek Orthodox. So quite a few from there as well. And Baha'i, we have Baha'i chaplain, we have Jewish chaplain, of course. So yeah, that is a building that is coming up again, the Quiet Center. I don't know what we can do with the digital idea you have given. I will take it over there and we'll see what we can do over there as well. We have a big, if you remember, Quiet Center has got a big room which is called Rotunda, that is used by all faiths. We book it and we use it.
Well, I'm talking to Patrick Degg and Max, the Vice Chancellor, about creating something there. Because when I was in Guildford, we used to go to pray on Fridays at the mosque, and sometimes the student unions, all the alcohol there. I mean, it is a great example of faith working together. So in Aldershot, we have there was a Mormon church down in St. George's Road, where this Pakistani guy bought it, turned it into a mosque for 14 years, and then decided to kick them all out because he fell out with them. So there's about 200 people nowhere to pray. So I spoke to the leader of the council, and within an hour they provided the Mormon church, which is just literally 100 yards up there with plenty of parking spaces. And what was so great was that they actually removed all the literature and paintings, everything around there for Friday there. So what did they do? I persuaded them to give the Christmas tree on behalf of the Muslims at Christmas Day, because they didn't want any money. So again, it's about understanding everybody and how you work together, really, because everybody wants to help one another.
Exactly. And that's what we have been doing over there.
Meeta, I just want to finish our formal conversation and then open it up for anyone to chit chat. But Shahid, I really appreciate you. Well, yeah, really appreciate you being open to talk. And talking is not a problem for you. I can see that. You know, you just have to ask a little question, you're off. But and I can imagine you were quite a good dribbler in football. I mean,
Exactly.
yeah. But I really appreciate it, and I get the impression, as I said, that you're a man of action, and faith for you is something to be acted out. So it's a great start to this series. Um, we will be having other people join us, but people can leave now. The match is finished. Another one on telly if you want to watch it. But I thought in the extra time, if anybody wants to hang around and talk a little bit more in a slightly more free for all, that's why I asked everyone to unmute. So we're not competing. Well, we're just competing the normal way to get a word in. But really, really appreciate you being open to talking about it. Well, faith is a difficult thing to talk about, but you certainly managed to talk about your life and how faith has spurred you on in many ways to action. So thank you very much.
Well, I did play when I broke my leg. I did play football for the Churches League, which was where I met a lot of people from Millmead, because it was supposed to be, because I was quite aggressive, and they said, "Oh no," because I had metal plate, 28 screws, and they said, "Oh, come and play in the Churches League because it's very friendly," and I didn't, and I come from a sort of almost a professional type football ground, and I go out there, and the shock was, because you're really geared up to, really smash into the others, and basically the two teams got around a center circle, and the two captains started praying and saying, "Oh, please God, make sure nobody gets injured." And I'm thinking, so that was a bit of a shock for me. I said, "This is not how I play football." I remember, so I played for about a year or so with in the Churches League. I think there was like loads of and made good friends from as I say from the Churches League, from and we were all over south really. So that was good.
Actually, Ian had a question he wanted to ask about to do with football club. So do you want to ask that, Ian? You're muted at the moment. There you go.
Hi
Ian.
everyone. Hi Shahid. I follow Woking, so I hope that, yeah. I hope we can still be friends. But a question I had, so I've got some understanding from following Woking of kind of where the National League is at. So everyone else, if you don't know, the National League is the league that both Woking and Aldershot play in. And I kind of wondered, is the future unsure? And then ongoing from that, does that then have a knock-on effect on the work the clubs can do in the community? Which I'm assuming that would be one of the reasons why we're so behind football clubs, isn't it? It's because of their part in the community. And do you think actually times are hard? And
yeah, I think first of all, I think the way the government's gone about it, I think, look, it's been a real challenge for them. I think, look, I sit on the board of the National League. I'm I chair the commercial committee for the National League, so I'm responsible not responsible, look after all the sponsors and that. I wasn't at the meeting when we had a meeting with DCMS about whether we're going to start the season, not going to start the season. If you recall, we normally start in August. It was postponed till September. Then Boris said, no, we got another way. We're going to start in October. Well, we said we're not going to start in October until we know, we never started any of the contracts, so we weren't worried about liabilities. DCMS said, right, we're going to give you grants till December, all the clubs, and after December, we'll give you if people can't come down and start watching the fans, we will give you financial support. That's what was agreed. Now, when you're talking about grants, and then at the same word they use, not giving, why would you think then the next bit is you've got to get guarantees and warranties and debentures on your loans, because we've never started it. But again, the whole world has changed, and we all have to take some risks. So you will see the National League will complete its season. I can guarantee you that. You will have your promotion. You won't have any relegation. You'll have promotion. But the big part I can tell you right now is that the Premier League has guaranteed the £2 million to the foundations. So, you know, the funding you get from the National League Trust, which is, you know, I know Jane Spong is quite heavily involved in it. So you still get your funding, and now is more time than ever. You need the social responsibility of the football club and galvanized communities, getting people on it. The social arm of the football club is the most paramount things. And why do people support local clubs? One, it's all about their clubs, but it's from a sponsor point of view, they see, you know, what the football club's doing in engaging the communities and supporting people, whether it's mental health problems, whether it's disability, whether it's, I mean, Woking do a great thing with Mind. They run, you know, the disabled support, and that goes across the country. So I don't see, you know, any problems with that. With the season will finish, you'll have promotion and you'll still have support from. I can guarantee, because I've seen the funding come in.
Good. Thank you. Good. Hard.
Any of your old friends who want to chip in here? You know, you've got a few camp followers here who know you from old. You said they might correct you, so here's an opportunity for a Tony.
Well, I think I can tell you that he's not said anything that I think is untruthful so far. So, you know, it's a bit of a verification. I was thinking, you know, I mean, when I knew Shahid all those years back, and we've kind of connected, you know, every so often through the years, and Shahid's been a fantastic supporter, you know, of me and the work I've been doing, and, you know, running that marathon. I mean, I think that almost killed him, I think, to be honest. But, you know, he raised over £10,000. It was, you know, just phenomenal.
14,500, Peter. 14,500. I counted every step.
A bit of inflation, you know. It'll get. You know, the thing that struck me always with Shahid is that his faith is something that's very inside of him, you know, and that gives him, I believe, the energy and power and commitment to do all the very generous things that I've seen him do throughout the years. And he's been a fantastic supporter of charities, you know, but whenever he gets involved, it's always hands-on. You know, a lot of people like sitting on boards. I don't think Shahid's really a board director in that way. You know, he kind of wants to go out there and get his hands dirty and gets rather fed up, I think, with all of the talk that goes on in these things. And you know, I feel he's done a great year, made the most of his opportunity of High Sheriff. I ideally wish he could have another year, really, but that's powers beyond me. Thank you.
I think what you said, Peter, it is that inner feeling, what you said, inner belief. I always think, doesn't matter what it is and whatever I'm facing in my life, I always think I will find what's right and what I believe in, and if you stick to your values, principles, ethics, you'll come out a better person out of that, and you never lose that. So for me, you know, even some of the lowest, you know, time in my life, I never given up that I was gonna lose out. You know, it just happens. Never. I don't think I've ever been let down by, you know, whoever you believe in. I've never been let down.
And Zarina was asking lots of stuff about sport, because she'd been teaching non-contact boxing to girls, which has been really interesting. But she's moved on to that, to doing Smith.
No, I was teaching some of the Pakistani girls at Woking Leisure Centre, because the boys were going to the boxing club and they wanted something separate as part of boxing. But now I'm working on hate crime, domestic violence, and some other stuff for Smith, and also community development.
Okay, so and what sort of uptake do you get from the Asian girls on, because I know they, because
and I wasn't only working with Asian girls, but I particularly, because I'm from mixed heritage background and I'm interested in interfaith, I was particularly interested in engaging with different ethnic communities across Surrey, and I did. So I built it up. I got made redundant. I was a senior manager in Surrey County Council for the Youth and Community Services, dealing with gang and knife crime coming out of London. And then I came to, well, I live in Woking, so, and then I started Youth Box, which was, and I went around all the schools and it built up, but because of COVID, it stopped. But when I saw a job with Surrey Minority Ethnic Forum, I wanted to work more with the ethnic communities. And so I've done it, and I'm doing it.
Well, that's fantastic. Look, I think one of the biggest challenge we have at the moment is I was out with the divisional commander yesterday, Dave Bentley, walking down.
Yeah, he's a colleague of mine. We're going to do some work together around encouraging ethnic communities, a pilot, because I'm on the independent hate crime panel, and we're going to do a pilot about trying to encourage not crime reporting, but sometimes there's a barrier to reporting crime, and we want to do some work around that. And there's some recent findings saying that it would be good to sort of look at how...
Is this going to like the fire station and all that, sort of reporting these when you go to domestic abuse, and when you go to talk about the fire station, they're more easy to talk to those people than it is to the police. I mean, one of the things I'm talking to, David, is about you know, family values, getting sort of influencers. We're talking about you know, knife crime. We're talking about drug issues.
Yeah.
And you know, well, he told me that the hate crime's gone down by 8%.
Yes, that's correct.
So that's one. The second thing he says, I think
that's not Surrey-wide, that's Woking.
Just Woking. He said the bicycle theft has gone down by 13 or 14%.
I don't tend to look at the bicycle figures.
Yeah, but the domestic abuse has obviously gone up because, not obviously, but that's gone up a bit.
There's some issues around refuges being full and how we're getting women support. So there's some issues around that. So yeah, I'll put my email in the chat, and then if ever you want to talk further.
Did you not use the arch at
thank you for giving it to us for a good price. My women's group was good. I had 20 women from 13 different countries.
Yeah.
And Beryl, the mayoress, came and opened it up. We had quite a mixture. Mita, you didn't come along, did you? Because we had such a restriction on numbers. It was annoying because I could only have 15 in there because of COVID.
Yeah, no, I know. So I know the people at Smith, and in fact, I officially opened it in 2010, I think it was when it first
the Arch? Yeah.
No, Smith, when they first launched it in 2010 at the Lighthouse.
My mum's a trustee, so she first started it off years ago.
Was that Suzanne Akram?
Yeah, she runs it, but my mum's a trustee.
Yeah.
So.
Suzanne runs it with your mother.
Yeah, we have been nominated at SMEF. I'm one of the trustees over there for one of the prestigious award, which is equivalent to MBE when it comes to charities. So we're looking forward to
the Queen's Award.
Yeah, no, I'm part of that. The Queen's Award for Voluntary Services, so I had to sign it off, so I'm aware of it.
So it's good.
No. It's got to go back to. Now we can recommend it. It's still got to go back to the cabinet to be approved because there are a number of people there. But that has been submitted. So you know.
But I mean, even with watching the news today, we've only got to turn the television on. I think it's become very much more relevant, and Mita will definitely back me. I mean, I was going to say a kid, but I was dealing with youth service management stuff. But I was seeing my mum really struggling with Suzanne and others for ethnic communities and looking at that. Nowadays, I dare not be a bit un-PC and say things are topical, but very much people are exploring more, looking at intergenerational, interfaith, you know, the advantage in working together and not being two separate silos. And for me, when you were sharing earlier and touched upon that, about interworkings and making things not two separate silos, that appealed. Yeah.
So is there anything we can do for you?
No, I mean, not really. I think it'll evolve as it evolves.
If you don't ask, you don't get. So
and there probably is. I'll give you my list tomorrow once I've pondered on it.
Okay.
Well, I've kept very quiet during this conversation because obviously this is Shahid's evening. But as chairman of the county council, there's an enormous amount that we can all feed off by the exemplars that Shahid has done in his year. And the fact, I don't just think that it's because we're innately religious, we're innately faith men, but we are obviously externally different too. And I've got no shame in saying, you know, Shahid is a Pakistani and I am a Jew. And this has done our communities no harm whatsoever in being leaders of our country. I've done it for 3 years now. And the passion that it evokes for both of us, and I've seen this in Shahid in his year, is enormous. And Zarina, you need to use your effort that you're doing in Woking, send it to me and anyone else who's doing something in Woking, because then I'll expand it to the other 10 boroughs and districts we've got.
Excuse me, sir. I'm sorry. Excuse me, sir. I'm Surrey-wide for the OPCC, and my work's always been Surrey-wide. However, I am specialising in the pilots in Woking, and then we can expand it later. And totally with you. I find it's a lot. Being a product of integration, we have different religions in our family, and my dad is white, and my mum has brown skin. So I suppose I am integration, and what I want to see, not just in Woking, but a bit wider, is harmonious peacemaking, working together between the different nationalities and also between the different religions. I'm an idealist. I'll probably never ever be happy, but I'll strive towards it.
Oh, I don't agree. I think it's going to happen, and I think the peace centre idea that the High Sheriff has put forward is something we need to work on going forward.
And I think with people like Mita pioneering the type of work she does, I just champion that, even though I haven't got to know her as well yet, but I will do.
No, brilliant.
Brilliant. Now I'm aware
That sounds great. Yeah, thank you so much. That sounds great. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, Mita, we're going to get you and your daughter to come sometime and share on this. And
yeah, she's with me at the moment. I can put the video on. I'm in Stoke Park, so so that's the reason. You know, it was dark too.
And we're also talking to Beryl about Beryl Hanrich talking about her faith, which will be. And I think
she was given the High Sheriff of Surrey's Youth Community Award by the previous High Sheriff.
Julia Llewellyn.
No, before that.
Oh no, sorry. So Bridget Bedell.
Jim Clover.
Jim Glover.
Jim Clover. Yeah.
Jim Glover.
Yeah. That was 2018. That was at the Denby's Wine Estate. She performed over there, traditional Indian dance as well, the devotional dance, Hindu dance sort of.
Wonderful. So we intend to have more of these. I think today's been a great start. Really appreciate Shahid being open to doing this. And he's still High Sheriff till next month, isn't it? Or is it this month?
End of April, end of 29th. So you can see the virtual installation again on the 29th.
Of the new
in fact, yeah, I think you have. I'm not sure because again, you know, yourself and the Imam were my chaplains, and obviously we didn't really get to do a lot. But I think there is the idea is to try and link that with the chaplain that Julie's going to take, or the new incoming High Sheriff. So I think that's is it Bev?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, Bev. Yeah, Bev.
We had a chat. Yeah.
Look, and you know, we have all different nationalities here. And I think what you've got to do also as a community is look at it that, you know, Surrey isn't, you know, excuse the language, it's not male, pale and stale, right? You might used to be, but it isn't now. What you got now is that, you know, I can understand if they offered me a High Sheriff in Birmingham or Bradford or Luton, the fact that it's Surrey. And I think, you know, you've got a fantastic, you know, with the Lord Lieutenant, who's been fantastic. You got, you've got Tony there in the councils and the local boroughs. You know, we are a very much extremely diverse sort of society and community. And I think for us, I think what is great is, you know, and my theme was together we're stronger, and that theme today still exists. If we are together, we will be stronger, you know, and just respect one another.
Yeah, it was interesting actually because you said that in a meeting I got challenged because one of the guys who is the CEO, I won't say what, but he said, why shouldn't we live in separate silos, Zarina? Why should we integrate and work together? He was challenging me. I don't think he actually believed it. He was just trying to stretch me. And I said, when you've dealt with hate crime and you've dealt with people not working well in harmony, and you've seen some of the damage it's caused to communities, then you will strive for interfaith working. When you've dealt with some of the stories that I've dealt with and some of the child protection issues, then you will work for peacemaking theologies. And he did make me think about, again, why these things are important to build community. And I just commend your reaching out to those that are suffering and poor and hungry, and trying to make it a more equal society. I think that's brilliant.
Well, you know, we live in Surrey that we have the people that have that don't want, and people that want don't have. So there's a huge issue is that. Yet we waste 30% of our food. We buy it, sell by date, we bin it. You know, it's just and again, you learn these things in life. I was coming back from Pakistan one year. I sat on a plane, and again, I'm just trying to put the context where you're sitting in the first class, a guy sitting next to me with a American guy. I was with all my laptops and technology. He just had a pen and paper. Anyway, his flight was delayed, and he was from Boston. He was meeting his wife in London, and I said, "Oh, I'm going to be late." I said, "Well, yeah, use my mobile phone. Tell the hotel you're late." And he couldn't believe he could phone it. He was a professor at. Anyway, it's a long story. We took off, and the lady came with the food and that, and it was really particular. It's very particular that he would take one of this and two of this and one of that. And when he finished his food, he had about half a naan left over, and he says to the air hostess, "Oh, could you put it in a paper bag for me?" And I said, and he put it in his bag, and he said to me, "You probably want to ask. You're probably wondering why I did that." And I said, "Well, I was a bit curious." He said, "I advise around the world on he works for World Health Organization. He goes around the world talking about putting certain minerals and vitamins into food products, and he said, when you go around the world and people fight for a piece of morsel, right? And I'm going and you know, you see the hunger and poverty there." He said, "I made my decision that I would never ever waste any food. So whatever he would take it." So that, to me, again, you sat with it. This is probably 97, 98. And that, again, I made a policy now not to waste any food, because here's a guy, professor, Boston University, sitting there, and what he's seeing. And for me, it's those lessons like that, but you don't think about it. And
but you grew up in Pakistan, and you saw the women carrying the water on their heads, and they were going to the well. So you knew that water was valuable, and so you valued it from a young age. Therefore,
well, I valued it after my grandfather beat me.
Well, yeah,
but I tell
there
you
is
what,
that.
but I tell you what there is, right? And I know if you're waffling on, tell me when to stop, because I can talk about Pakistan and communities, and that's it. So when I was born in Pakistan, living in a village, everybody looked after each other. I mean, when I talk about everybody, so if people were harvesting, the people's land that was being harvested, they never go to work. They would stay at home, they would cook. Everybody else in the village would help and go and harvest their land. The next day, then they come back at night and have a feast with everybody. The next day, they'll go to next village, next person, and they all work together as one community. They were under, well, what are you cooking? There was no barriers and walls and doors. It was open, virtually open plan village. You had women going to, you know, it's a day out for them. Like they would go to the river to wash their clothes. I'm talking about 65, 64. They would take the whole family. They'd take food. It's a social event for them, and they come back in the evening. When they go to the wells, you know, it's a social event. It's time for them to talk. And more importantly was that everybody knew what everybody was doing. Or what you cooking, you know, and people go and get a plate of what you cooking, and it was all shared. Now you go back, we've got running water, we've got electricity, we've got people got mobile phones, we've got fridge freezers. We don't have, even though there's no running water, people put these motors in the well, which is about half a mile, and bring the water into their doors. But what happened is they become I tell them when I go back, they become a very selfish society. They don't really think about that community. Now they always want something more than the other. I mean, so it's changed, you know, the values have changed in families, the values in our communities have all changed. It's not about the caring communities we're there. Look, we could be here for one day, we could be here for 100 years or 110 years, but what are you doing? what you're doing as a community, what you're doing as a human being.
Brilliant. Well, I think I want to go and have my supper now, so I've not had anything to eat yet. So,
all that talk about water from the wells made me thirsty. I better go and get some water.
Well, I'll tell you what. I did a documentary in 2007. I went out to Uganda for Channel 4 and lived in a village called. I hate the title because they chose it. It's called Millionaire's Mission, and it took 8 people from the UK, entrepreneurs, self-made, and could they alleviate poverty through enterprise? So we worked with World is what big Christian
Is it
charity?
World Vision?
World Vision. So we went there.
Yeah, I think I heard about that.
So we lived in the village, and you know what? To me, it was easy. You know, it's camping, log farm. It was the best time I ever had. But Channel 4 just interesting documentary. But what I saw again there was again a bit of my family's community spirit there, people working. But the sad side I saw was that the women were working for 50p a day. You know, that's what they were doing, taking their children and covering them in the shade, and that's unjust in 2021, or well, whenever I did it, 2007. So again, it's all about water. You know, it's about getting.
It all goes back to water and
Yeah.
how we treat one another.
Yep.
It's so pure.
And now, when you invited me to be your chaplain, I imagined we were going to have some really interesting events, nice dinners, dress up, you know, and all that. We've not done anything since you've
No, and it's so sad because
I was told by a friend of mine. They said meeting without eating is cheating.
Yes.
And
it is.
I'm looking forward to the day we can actually sit down and around a table and enjoy together.
Inshallah, we will do that. We will do that. And I think what we need to do is, once this got locked down, because I was supposed to host the judges. I haven't hosted any of the judges for dinners because they're supposed to coming in. I was supposed to host the part of the judiciary, the people who've been keeping the courts going. You know, so the military and you know.
Wheel us on to say grace, you know.
Yeah. No. We'll do that. I mean, we'll do. I mean, I was planning to. We got a Surrey Day on May the 1st, which, again, it's month of Ramadan. We spend some time and maybe go to the mosque. But then again, even May, you're only allowed to have maximum, I think, 30 people in.
30 people.
30 people. So it's not really. The good thing, Phil, is I saved money. We're not having these dinners.
Look, which great. I'm glad you felt able to stay on. I mean, we will finish the formal meetings in 45 minutes.
Well, I'm your guest. If you don't want to get rid, I'm happy to stay where you want. I mean, I missed the first half.
Thanks again, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All the
Thank you
best.
very much.
Bye bye.
Good evening. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.